This is Ask a Couples Counsellor, a show that answers all the relationship questions you're too afraid to ask. On the show, we'll take your questions and give you the tools you need to build trust and intimacy with your partner. I'm your host, Neha Kapoor. I'm a registered clinical counsellor and psychotherapist, and I'm really passionate about helping couples navigate the challenges that we all go through. Because after all, every relationship encounters some stormy weather now and then. Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Parenting Conversations, where we dive into some of the most thought-provoking questions surrounding parenthood, relationships, and family dynamics. Whether you're thinking about having children, navigating co-parenting, or facing tough decisions like staying together for the sake of your kids, this episode is for you. So grab a cup of coffee, get comfortable, and let's get into some real talk about parenting and relationships. All right, let's get into it. Let's have a listen to our first question for today.
How do you know if you want kids because you're ready or because it's expected of you?
That's a really interesting question, Court. The question of whether you want kids because you're ready or because it's expected can be extremely complex, and it often involves untangling personal desires from societal, familial, or cultural expectations. So, in my opinion, a few ways to explore that distinction could be firstly, asking yourself why you want kids. Is it because you genuinely envision a life with children, enjoy the idea of raising them, and feel excited about the responsibility? Or do you feel pressured from family, society, or your relationship status? Secondly, I would say think about how you feel when you imagine having kids. Do you feel excitement, joy, and a sense of purpose? Or is there anxiety, obligation, or a feeling of this is what I should do? The emotional response can provide you clues about your decision. The other thing that I would say is assess your lifestyle, your goals, and how children would fit into them. Do you feel like a sense of readiness to make the sacrifices and changes that children bring? Or do you feel like it's something you should do because of your age or external pressures? And if you're feeling pressure from others, it might be helpful to separate their expectations from your desires. So think about whether the people around you are pushing the idea, or are you the one truly imagining a future with children? Okay. And the most important thing is to take time, because it's okay to not have a clear answer right away, because sometimes the desire to have children evolves over time and your feelings will clarify as you continue reflecting. All right. I hope that answers your question, Court. Let's get into our second question for today, which comes from Nathan in Dubbo. Let's have a listen to Nathan's question.
How do you handle meeting your ex's new partner when you have kids?
I love this question, Nathan, because I believe it's a real life test of how couples can evolve from romantic partners to effective co-parents. So look, meeting your ex's new partner when you have kids can be a very delicate situation, but it can also set the stage for a healthy co-parenting dynamic. The tips that I could give you to handle it gracefully would be to focus on the kids. So keep your children's well-being as the central priority. If they see you handling the situation with maturity and respect, it can help them feel more comfortable with the new partner's presence. Secondly, I would say set boundaries. So before the meeting, it can be helpful to discuss boundaries with your ex, understand each other's expectations, and ensure that the introduction is handled with sensitivity to your comfort level and the children's needs. Okay, I know this can be hard to do, but it's very important to set boundaries. The other thing that I would say is maintain a positive attitude. So approach the meeting with an open mind, even if there are unresolved feelings or tensions. Staying neutral or friendly can set a good tone. And avoid making negative comments in front of your kids, because remember, the kids are the priority. So keep it brief and civil. Look, the first meeting doesn't need to be long or in depth. A brief and polite interaction can help establish respect and set the tone for future encounters. You don't need to become close with the new partner, But showing respect helps to create a smoother environment for co parenting. And be prepared depending on the kid's age. It might be helpful to talk with your kids beforehand. Just reassure them that it's okay to like their parent's new partner and that it doesn't change your relationship with them. So prepare the kids, that would be really useful. And look, give yourself grace. I know that it's normal to have mixed feelings. And what I mean by giving yourself grace is that it's okay to feel conflicted or uncertain at times, especially when dealing with emotions or challenging situations. So it's a reminder to be kind and patient with yourself, recognizing that it's human to have complex emotions rather than being overly critical or demanding of yourself. Okay, so I would like you to lead into it gently. All right, I hope that answers your question, Nathan. Let's get into our last question for today and let's have a listen to it. It comes from James in Brisbane.
If your relationship fails, should you stay together for the sake of your children, or at least until they're adults?
I really like your question, James, because it invites a lot of reflection and discussion about what truly benefits the family as a whole. Look, staying together solely for the sake of children can be a complex decision. On one hand, I would say children benefit from stable, loving environments. However, if the relationship is filled with tension, resentment, or unhappiness, staying together could be more harmful than beneficial because children are highly perceptive and they can sense emotional strain, which can affect their emotional well being and how they view relationships. And there are studies that suggest that children in high conflict homes, even when parents stay together, can experience long term emotional and psychological effects. A meta analysis of family conflict research has found that exposure to ongoing parental conflict is associated with increased anxiety, depression, behavioral issues, and difficulty with relationships later in life. So, children may internalize the conflict, leading to feelings of guilt, stress, and divided loyalty. And there's another interesting research from a psychologist called Mavis Hetherington and other scholars, which shows that while children of divorce often experience short term stress and adjustment difficulties, the long term effects are generally not as severe as previously believed. Hetherington's study found that 75 to 80% of children from divorced families grow up to function as well as those from non divorced families. So these children generally adapt better when parents separate in a relatively peaceful and respectful manner without continued conflict. And there was another interesting piece of research that I found. It was a study which was published in 2014 in the Journal of Family Relations, which found that the quality of marital relationships matters more to children's well being than whether the parents are married or separated. So, in low conflict marriages, staying together may provide stability and emotional security for children. However, in high conflict marriages, children may fare better when parents separate, as the stress of witnessing ongoing conflict can be more harmful than the separation itself. So ultimately, the decision should be based on what's healthiest for everyone involved, including the parents and children. And if the relationship has become toxic or unsustainable, according to you, it may be better to model healthy co parenting rather than staying together in a dysfunctional situation. And remember that each family is different. So the choice depends on your specific circumstances. Open communication and possibly seeking professional guidance, such as counseling or therapy, can help you navigate the decision. I hope that answers your question, James. All right, that's it for today. And before I go, if you have any burning questions you want answered, send them to novoempowercounselling@gmail.com. Let's navigate this journey together because better relationships start with understanding. I can't wait to hear from you. You've been listening to Ask a Couples Counselor, a show that answers all the relationship questions you're too afraid to ask. This show is produced by novoempowercounselling. We provide a range of services, including couples counselling, individual counselling, and online counselling. To find out more, visit our website novoempowercounselling.com.au. This show was produced with strategy and production support from Wavelength Creative. To make sure you don't miss an episode of Ask a Couples Counselor, be sure to subscribe to or follow the show in your podcast app. And while you're there, I'd love it if you could leave me a 5-star review. It really helps others find the show. I'm your host, Neha Kapoor, and I'll see you in the next episode.